The frozen sun hung low over the Norwegian Sea, casting long shadows across the Arctic training grounds, where two of the world's most advanced fighter jets prepare to face each other in a mock combat exercise that would test the limits of both machine and pilot. Captain Emma Lindström gripped the controls of her Swedish JAS 39 Gripen, her breath forming small clouds in the cold cockpit air, despite the heating system working at full capacity. Across the frozen expanse, she knew her opponent was already airborne. Major Derek Hayes' American F-22 Raptor, the most feared fighter jet in the sky. This was supposed to be a simple training exercise, a chance for NATO allies to learn from each other during the annual Arctic Challenge event. But Emma knew that reputations were on the line, and neither pilot would back down easily. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. The radio crackled to life at exactly 9:32 a.m. as ground control gave the final authorization. Gripen 1, you are clear for takeoff. Weather conditions are stable, visibility 15 miles, temperature minus 20 degrees Celsius. Good hunting. Emma pushed the throttle forward, feeling the familiar surge of power as her Gripen raced down the icy runway and lifted into the pale Arctic sky. The clouds above formed a thick blanket at 20,000 feet, creating a natural arena where this aerial duel would unfold. She climbed steadily, her eyes scanning the instruments in the empty sky, knowing that somewhere in those clouds, the Raptor was waiting. Major Hayes had been flying combat missions for 12 years, and his confidence showed in every maneuver. He brought his Raptor into a slow circle above the cloud layer, his advanced radar systems searching for any sign of the Swedish fighter. Control, this is Raptor 1. I'm in position and ready to begin the exercise, he transmitted, his voice calm and professional. But inside, his mind was racing through countless scenarios and tactics. He had heard stories about the Gripen pilots, how they trained to fight against numerically superior forces, how they used unconventional tactics that caught opponents off guard. He would not underestimate Captain Lindström. Even if his aircraft was technologically superior in almost every measurable way, Emma kept her Gripen low, just beneath the cloud layer, using the thick moisture as cover from the Raptor's powerful sensors. She knew her aircraft was smaller, more agile, and could turn tighter than the American jet. But the Raptor had stealth capabilities and sensor systems that could detect her from dozens of miles away. Her strategy relied on patience and precision, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Come on, find me," she whispered to herself, her eyes constantly moving between the clouds above and her radar display. Suddenly, a faint contact appeared on her screen, just a ghost of a signal that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He was up there, prowling through the clouds like a predator searching for prey. The two aircraft circled each other in 3 dimensions, neither pilot willing to make the first aggressive move without perfect position. Hayes descended through the clouds, his eyes straining against the bright, white moisture that surrounded his cockpit. The visibility dropped to almost nothing, and he had to rely entirely on his instruments. That was when Emma made her move. She pulled back hard on the stick, sending her Gripen climbing vertically through the clouds at maximum power, her jet engine screaming in protest against the sudden demand for performance. The G-forces pressed her back into her seat, her vision narrowing slightly as blood rushed away from her brain, but she held the climb steady and true. Hayes saw the contact on his display surge upward and immediately recognized the danger. "Clever girl," he muttered, banking hard to right and diving to build up speed. The Raptor's powerful engines responded instantly, and he emerged from the clouds at 10,000 feet, scanning the sky for visual contact. There she was, a silver dart against the pale sky, already turning back toward him with impossible speed. The distance between them closed rapidly as both pilots committed to a head-on pass, a dangerous game of chicken that would test their nerves and skill. Break left, break left. Emma's training officer had once told her that the pilot who commits first usually loses in a head-on engagement, but the pilot who hesitates dies. She held her course until the last possible second, her finger hovering over the simulated weapon's trigger. At a separation of just 2 miles, she saw the Raptor twitch slightly to the right, and she made her decision. Emma rolled her Gripen 90 degrees and pulled hard, the horizon spinning wildly as she executed a barrel roll around the approaching American fighter. Her aircraft groaned under the stress, metal and composite materials flexing to their limits. But the Gripen held together as it always did. Hayes felt a surge of respect for his opponent as the Swedish fighter spiraled around him like a dancer. He immediately pulled into a vertical climb, using his superior engine power to gain altitude advantage. The Raptor climbed at nearly 90 degrees, the afterburners painting brilliant orange trails across the Arctic sky. At 25,000 feet, he rolled inverted and pulled through, converting his altitude into speed as he dove back toward where he expected Emma to be. But she was not there. His radar showed nothing, his eyes saw nothing. She had disappeared. Emma had cut her throttle completely and deployed her air brakes, bleeding off speed so quickly that her aircraft nearly fell out of the sky. It was a dangerous maneuver that went against every instinct, but it worked. The Raptor shot past her position, and now she had the advantage. She lit up her afterburner and pulled onto Hayes' tail, her targeting system acquiring a lock with a satisfying tone that filled her helmet. "Gotcha," she breathed, squeezing the trigger that sent simulated missiles toward the American fighter. The training computers registered the hits, and the radio erupted with confirmation from ground control. "That's a kill for Gripen 1, the controller announced. "Raptor 1, you are marked as combat ineffective. Break off and return to base." There was a long silence on the radio as Hayes processed what had just happened. Then, to Emma's surprise, she heard laughter coming through the channel. "Outstanding flying, Captain Lindström. That was one hell of a move. You earned this one," Hayes transmitted, his voice full of genuine admiration. Emma felt her heart still racing, the adrenaline slowly fading as she turned her Gripen toward home. "Thank you, Major. You pushed me harder than anyone ever has." Same time next year. As both aircraft descended through the clouds toward their respective bases, neither pilot could stop smiling. They had both learned valuable lessons about their aircraft, their tactics, and themselves. Emma had proven that size and technology were not everything in combat, that skill and creativity could overcome raw power. Hayes had been reminded to never underestimate an opponent, no matter what aircraft they flew. When Emma landed at 11:15 a.m., her ground crew was already waiting with cheers and congratulations. She climbed down from the cockpit, her legs slightly unsteady from the intensity of the engagement, and looked up at the Arctic sky, where she had just earned her place among the elite. Across the frozen expanse at the American base, Hayes was filling out his after-action report with careful honesty, documenting every moment of the engagement so that other pilots could learn from his experience. The rivalry between the Gripen and the Raptor would continue, but today had proven something important, that in the hands of a skilled and determined pilot, any aircraft could be deadly. The Arctic sky had witnessed an unforgettable duel, a moment where courage and skill triumphed over pure technological advantage, and both pilots knew they would carry this memory with them for the rest of their careers.